thank again Chip for doing a wonderful job emceeing this award ceremony. And I absolutely pledge we will do this in person next year. Um, it's just overwhelming. It's so pleased to be here with all of you today. So what I'd like to do now is invite our three lifetime award winners to say a little bit. First, let me invite up to the stage, as it were, the virtual stage, Dr. Rachel Volberg, who has not only just been involved with the National Council since 1985, has served as a president of the National Council, has been on the board for a long time, but at one point she had done the majority of problem gambling prevalence studies in the world, and is now going to be presenting later on this week at the National Council's 35th conference on the latest results from the Massachusetts Gambling Impact Cohort Study, which is, I believe, the only one of its kind. So it's with sincere appreciation and respect and gratitude, I would like to invite Rachel up to the stage to say a few words.
Thanks, Keith. I'm going to begin with a confession. I never expected to spend an entire career doing gambling research. I graduated from the University of California, San Francisco in 1983 with a PhD in sociology and a determination never to enter academia, thanks to my mom's bad experiences in that sphere. The following year, I was offered a job in Albany, New York, doing technical writing for a software startup, and moved across the country, delighted that I would be living closer to my immediate family and also be able to start paying off my student loans. 6 months later, to my horror, I arrived at work one day to find a sign on the door saying that the company had declared bankruptcy and advising all of its employees to apply for unemployment. Through diligent snowball sampling, I was able to find a new job within just a few months. The new job was to evaluate 2 recently established treatment programs for problem gamblers in New York State. On my first day of work in May of 1985, I was handed a 2-page bibliography and told this is everything that has been published about problem gambling. My interest was piqued. How could so little be known about a subject that the New York State government was spending about $750,000 a year to address? I was incredibly fortunate that the then National Council on Compulsive Gambling already existed and was based in New York City. In those early years, the National Council was dominated by Monsignor Dunn and GA guys like Tom Cummings and Arnie Wexler and Paul Ash. But the researchers, Henry Lessier, Richard Rosenthal, Marvin Steinberg, and even treatment professionals like Lori Rugel and Joanna Franklin encouraged my early efforts and provided me with an intellectual home. And the annual conferences provided me with great networking opportunities. I was definitely in the right place at the right time when it came to doing gambling research. In the years that followed, there was a rapid expansion internationally in the availability of legal commercial gambling. And as states, provinces, and countries legalized these new forms of gambling, they often wanted to conduct a prevalence survey. I became known for conducting prevalence surveys. I even had the title the Queen of the SOGs, and more consulting work started to come my way. But I also had strong interests in how to best measure gambling and problem gambling, in the natural course or etiology of the disorder, and in the broader social and economic impacts of gambling legalization. I've been so fortunate to have found opportunities to explore all of these areas and more over the last 35 years. I want to end today by thanking Marlene Warner, who unbeknownst to me nominated me for this award, as well as Jeff Derevensky, Mark Potenza, Rob Williams, and Lori Salemi, who wrote in support of the nomination. I also want to thank the NCPG Awards Committee and the NCPG Board of Directors for wisely selecting not 1, not 2, but 3 women for Lifetime Achievement Awards this year. It is truly an honor and a privilege to be receiving this award in the company of Deb Haskins and Heather Chapman, whose work I have followed and whose company I have always enjoyed, whether we are eating crab cakes at a waterfront restaurant in Baltimore or sipping wine after a conference dinner in Columbus, Ohio. I look forward with excitement to seeing all of you in person in Boston next year and bending your ears once again with my tales of long ago. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Rachel. God, I'm getting all mushy-eyed, and we haven't even got through all the rest of the Lifetime Awards. Without further ado, I'd like to bring up one of our heroes, who has been involved in the gambling field again for 20 years, but has helped us rise to meet the moment, after the challenges of George Floyd and some of the other tragedies that we've endured. Because Debbie's about a lot more than addressing systemic racism, but that is a big part of who she is and what she does. And I'm so grateful to have her as a guide and a leader, not just for the National Council, but for our field. And I can't think of anybody more deserving to receive the Advocacy Award than Dr. Debbie Haskins. Welcome, Debbie, and congratulations.
Thank you very much. I'm just humbled and overwhelmed and without words, really, to just describe the immense joy and just gratitude I have for being nominated and being recognized for such an award by so many who go before me, but also in the company of so many great leaders like Dr. Chapman and Dr. Goldberg and all of the folks who are even on this conference award ceremony. But I want to first thank God, because God really gave me the gifts that I have to do the work that I do. I also want to start out by recognizing and thanking my amazing mentor and dear friend and my supervisor, Joanna Franklin Robertson, who, while I was on internship at Psychiatric Institute of Washington in DC, introduced me to my first gambler, a European descent individual male, cisgender male, who had narcissism. And so if I was to provide opportunity to learn about gamblers, that was one of the first challenging experiences that I had. But thankfully, because Joanna, who was just tireless and amazing as an advocate and a clinician and a leader in our field, walked with me step by step. And she was a person that recognized my commitment to social justice and diversity, and was the individual who introduced me to everyone in the field, including many of you, to say, you need to meet Debbie Haskins, Dr. Debbie Haskins. She is a person that understands cultural diversity, and she will help you learn how to provide services that are culturally attuned to people who are in need. So I give a lot of who I am in this field really to Joanna, because I wouldn't have accomplished so much without her guidance, her leadership, along with Dr. Lori Rugel and so many of you that I can't recognize today. I also want to thank Julie Hines, who nominated me. And as a preventionist, I respect preventionists. And if I were to do it over again, I always would say that I would be a preventionist, because in effect, I think that's who I am. I just didn't get the academic training. And that's what all of us are doing. So I want to thank Julie. I also want to thank Maureen Greeley, Carol O'Hare, as well as Mary Drexler, who provided letters of support. I'm just a young girl at one time who was born in Baltimore, Maryland, in Cherry Hill in East Baltimore, who moved to the Pimlico area in grade 5. And I tell people my story because one of my favorite gospel songs sings, "You Don't Know My Story." And I don't think when people see me that they would know my story, that I was just this little girl who grew up in a family that didn't have a lot, who was working class and who was struggling and just trying to make our way in the world. And I never would have imagined growing up a mile from Pimlico Racetrack that I would be where I am today. And just knowing my story and me providing the advocacy that I do, I hope that I help others see that everybody has a story and everyone has a gift. I also want to thank Keith White and the board of directors for believing that I was worthy of such a recognition. I want to thank you. I also have to recognize my family because honestly, without the village of support that I have, I wouldn't be able to accomplish what I do. My husband, Bruce was my main supporter in many ways. He was the person that whenever a call came in for consulting and training and leadership, he said, go. And I want to honor my children, Joseph, who is not here on earth with us anymore, but in heaven, and my dear children, Jason and Joy, who was willing to share their mom with the world and never once complained. And I also want to thank all my village of support, my family, my friends, my colleagues. But more than that, I want to thank all the gamblers, all the countless gamblers, all the countless affected others, all the countless communities, including cultural communities, many who don't have an identity that people see. And I am grateful that it's kind of interesting that when I was a little girl, I used to get in trouble a lot. And it was because my mom used to say, I always had to have the last word. I always had to have the last word. And guess what? That trait has helped me a lot in this field, in the field as an academic, in the field as a clinician, in the field as a tireless, consistent, staying on everybody's case, fighting for justice for so many that don't have a voice. And I want to honor my mother because my mother was my first social justice advocate. She taught us as a South Carolina African American woman growing up in the South, where people didn't see many people of color, that we counted and that we have a responsibility and a duty to make sure that we can help others who can't get ahead. And so that's what I'm trying to do. So for me, my goal is, and what I try to do is to represent all the countless gamblers, all the countless affected others and communities who teach me every day how I can help their hearts continue to beat in a world that is painful and that there is radical hope that helps us survive it all. So thank you, NCPG, and thank you to all of you. Keep fighting the fight.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you so much. So we're so grateful. And again, it's important to say these lifetime awards do not mean that any of these folks are leaving the field. They're not allowed to leave the field. This is merely a mid-career stop. They have so much more to give. We have so much more to learn from them, and we're so grateful for their continued involvement. You can't go anywhere now. You're on the hook. The last but not least, I'm really pleased to invite Dr. Heather Chapman to say a few words. She has been such a profound influence, again, not just on veterans, but on, and as the nominator said, not just in Ohio, but nationwide in terms of marrying treatment and research, compassion and clinical best practice. So it's with great honor that we celebrate Dr. Heather Chapman, the winner of the award for treatment. The Custer Award for Treatment, I should say, who is, of course, a fellow VA alumni. So,
yeah, thank you so much. I'm absolutely shocked and kind of stymied by this whole thing, and it really is a great pleasure and an incredible honor. Thanks really to everybody here. I see all these familiar faces. I miss everybody. And I really love it when people have their cameras on too, because I really want to see people's faces. Thank you, Keith, and all of NCPG. And of course, the marvelously brilliant problem gambling treatment and advocacy community. It's a pretty awesome group of people here. And certainly this community from my home state of Ohio and my adopted states of West Virginia and now Virginia. I'm doing these groups now for Virginia. So it's just absolutely wonderful how some of the pandemic has actually taught us how we can actually be a little bit more creative about how do we reach out to people. And again, so many other people across the world and the country here. And of course, my family, my friends, and Derek, thank you so much for nominating me. Stacy and Steve for writing letters. I'm really, really touched by your reaching out about me. And the members of Gamblers Anonymous, I want to thank them. I love Gamblers Anonymous. I feel that I call them, they call me, we're friends. And they're a very important piece of my life. And then finally, the Cleveland VA and the little Cleveland VA gambling treatment program, the biggest little secret in the world. And Robert Custer, who started that thing with Gamblers Anonymous, where I work. And so it's really moving to get this award because he did this. And if he didn't do this, I wouldn't be there. And it really, that's where it started for me. I'm a VA baby. My mother worked at the Cleveland VA, and I thought it was kind of cool when nobody wanted to work at the VA. And I was a research assistant trying to get some time under my belt. It's kind of like a Rachel Volberg story here. And I was doing a research study, and some of the people that we were doing a study on had gambling problems. And I met someone who had a gambling problem. And I asked him what he did for a living. And he said he was a bookmaker. And I thought he was like binding books or something. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was really cool. I was an art major. I thought, wow, do you make your own paper? And that was my beginning in working with people who had gambling problems. And I thought, why, you're from New York. What are you doing in Cleveland? And I was like, so it just grew from there, and it grew on me. And I loved it. I love it. And I'm not leaving, obviously. So it's been really a heck of a year. And I think it's led to a lot of reflection. It's led to a lot of reflection, certainly for me, but from what I hear from other people, from everybody, sort of what's important and where are we and who are we and what do we want to do with us and our time. And I'd like to really think about this because this has made me reflect getting this award. Take 10 minutes or 10 seconds to think about the people who brought you here today, like wherever you are, whatever you're doing, just what brought you, who are the people that brought you here today? Just 10 seconds, do it right now. Who was really instrumental in bringing you where you are today? And think about them and think how pleased they would feel knowing the difference they made in your life. And when I did this, particularly for this award, I think about our people. I think about the thousands of people facing incredible challenges coming to us, like to me, to us for help. Their courage, their strength, their humor, their stories, their compassion, their trust, frankly. I'm incredibly honored to ride along with so many magnificent people as we both take this life journey and sometimes holding each other up along the way. In this, we have an amazing gift. And what a beautiful gift this is. And I feel like I'm in amazing company. Congratulations, Deborah, and congratulations, Rachel. And for me, this again is a huge honor. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Heather, and Debbie and Rachel. There's really nothing else I could say that even comes close to the grace that all three of you have shown. So I will stop except to say that it is important to reflect. It's very rewarding being here with all of you today, and it's renewing. I hope like me, you leave this Zoom room in a few minutes, re-inspired, renewed, with your commitment, your excitement, your passion for the field, seeing the shoulders of those giants that we stand on, and hearing these stories of commitment and inspiration are, it renews me every year, and so I so appreciate it. Congratulations again to not just Heather and Debbie and Rachel, but to all of our winners, the award winners especially, Caitlin, Judge Moss, Lynn, and Roger posthumously, and then everyone who won the not the named awards, but the rest of the awards. We do have the opportunity to fellowship a little bit for this last 10 minutes and longer if you'd like. Staff have set up 3 breakout rooms. We've divided the awards into communications, into the lifetime awards, and then in the middle, the individual and sort of annual awards. So if there's someone you'd particularly like to talk to, congratulate, to talk amongst yourselves, please feel free to designate, to mouse over your name, and a blue box will pop up, and in those 3 little dots, you can then add to your name either C for communications, L for lifetime, or let's just say I for the individual awards. And you can certainly switch groups if you'd like. If you want to say congratulations to everybody, that is perfectly appropriate too. But again, my profound thanks to all of you. So it's Zoom may not always be beautiful, but it certainly was today. So thank you very much.